To the Black Financial Channel. This is theblackfinancialchannel.com. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. And as you come in, do me a favor. Let's do a quick audio check. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Let me know if I'm coming through all right. Also, I want to let everybody know this podcast is on Spotify. So if you go to Spotify and you look up my name, Boyce Watkins, you will find my podcast there. Also, shout out the city you're from. Let me know what city you're from. I see Nathan Lewis. How you doing? He says, yep. Yep. That means you can hear me. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a yes if you can hear me okay. Celeste Williams, I see you. Good to see you too. And today I wanted to kind of talk about something that I think could be beneficial to those of you that are looking to do things a little bit different in your family. Also, I sent you all a text to let you all know that I do have a profit alert in terms of a stock that I really like, a stock that I'm going to buy. And again, this is not investing advice, but it is something that I told you guys I would share with you. If you want to get on the text list to be texted when I find a stock that I like, just text the word stock to 31996. If you text stock to 31996, you can get profit alerts. Also, I have a Telegram page. As you guys know, we're getting off of YouTube and stuff like that. And so you can go follow me at drboycetelegram.com. That is where our Telegram page is. And Telegram's better because it allows for a lot more freedom of speech, all that good stuff. And I also want to say hello to Maurice Harrell. Good to see you out of Sarasota. Deborah out of Chesapeake, Virginia. I see Sheila Hawkins and Michael Dennis. Good to see you. Let's see who else is in here. I see Jackie Pagero. Good to see you as well. All right, so let's get started here. So first of all, excuse me, for those of you that just came in for the profit alert, I'll go ahead and give it to you now. The profit alert is a company called Acushnet Holdings. Acushnet Holdings, if you've ever watched things like the Masters, you would see companies like Titleist, stuff like that. Acushnet owns Titleist. And so the ticker symbol is GOLF, GOLF, GOLF. This is a stock based on my research that has a reasonably good opportunity of having upside. Now, the thing that is important to understand, give me a guess if you get this. I have to get confirmations because there's so much misinformation on the internet. So many people get things wrong. So many people misinterpret things. You do understand this is not investing advice. I'm not telling you what to do. You do get this, right? I want to make that clear. However, I'm sharing with you what I have seen based on my own research. And also, you do understand, give me a yes if you get this, that every investment does not work out. Some investments go down when you think they're going to go up, just like basketball. Sometimes you take a good shot and it doesn't go in. Do you understand that? I want to make that clear so that way we're on the same page. All right, so let me just kind of jump into the topic that I wanted to kind of hit today. And it has to do with the new book I just wrote. It's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. And the book is right here. And you can get a copy of my book. You can go to boycewatkins.com. You go to amazon.com. It's kind of all over the place. And this is the book that I'm really proud of. I've written a few other books. My first book I wrote when I was on the faculty at Syracuse University was called, what was it? Oh my gosh. The Black Student's Guide to College Success. That's what I was like, wait, what was it called? Yeah, so basically I wrote a book for Black college students to give them inside secrets on how to do well in college, because during college I was the number one Black student on campus. I was a Wall Street Journal outstanding graduating senior. I did all these things. And I was very surprised, honestly, because I never saw myself as a good student. I never saw myself as the smart kid. And what I learned is that there's just a process, that if you figure it out in terms of consistent work ethic, time management, stuff like that, you can absolutely kill the game. And then when I became a professor, it was really clear to me. So I said, if everybody just does these basic things, then any kid can go to college and do extremely well. And let's see, the boss lady says, I have that book. Oh, you do? Oh, very cool. Thank you. And so I wrote that years ago, about 19 years ago now. And also a few other books, Financial Lovemaking. I have a whole series called Black American Money. And if you want to learn about any of these, you can go to my website, boycewatkins.com, or you can go to drboycebooks.com. Either way, and my kids will ship you a copy if you want to get copies of any of my books. Now, the 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. I wanted to kind of tell you guys what this book does and why I wrote it. Basically, what I realized is that the number one problem that the Black community struggles with when it comes to wealth, and I say this as a person who has studied the science of finance for a long time. Not only did I, make straight A's and all that stuff in college, but after that, I went on and got a PhD. But I've learned 20 years worth of knowledge after my PhD. So after I got a doctorate, which was really hard to do, I spent 20 years observing Black culture carefully and observing the wealth gaps, observing how money flows through society, just kind of looking at things. And I realized, I said, oh my God, we're not solving the problem because we're not looking for the solutions in the right places. We're not sort of realizing that the biggest impediment to our wealth journey is not just things like systematic racism, although that does play a part. It's not just the fact that our inheritance levels are lower, although that does play a part. It's so deeply embedded with mindset, which is connected with culture. And I happen to be lucky enough to be married to an absolutely gorgeous Black woman who happens to be an expert on the subconscious mind. So she and I brainstorm on these issues all the time. You know, there's my wife right there. I like to look at her; it brightens my day. Um, and we've sat around and we've like right now, literally, she's literally in the other room on a treadmill reading a book about therapy and how to shift mindset in therapy. And I think she's read this book twice. It's a big 500-page book, and she reads it while she's on the treadmill. And so in the course of this led my wife and I to say, you know, we need to create an academic department that hasn't been created at any other institution, which is a Black financial therapy department. So in the Black Business School, where we've helped over 10 million people buy their first share of stock, I built this with my bare hands and our own money. Um, we've actually created the first ever Black financial therapy department to dig into the psychological barriers that keep us from building Black wealth. And I laid this out to explain to you because this is the kind of the foundation and the context within which this book is written. And so a lot of the ideas in the book are highly unconventional. You're not going to read them anywhere else. It's based on not just 30 years of teaching college students, but it's also based on uh, 52 years I spent on this earth as a Black man. Just last week, I had a relative who died from a drug overdose. And his family then sent me a link, or his part of the family sent me a link with a GoFundMe attached to help pay for his funeral. And so if you think that I'm writing these thoughts and ideas as a person who is disconnected from the problem, that's 100% untrue. I'm right in the middle of it. We're all in the middle of it. Give me a yes if you've seen those scenarios, somebody dying broke who shouldn't have died broke, or somebody going down from something like a drug addiction or a broken family situation. You know, I think it's family struggle because of the drugs. Well, all these things that you think are unconnected to wealth are deeply connected to your economic outcome. You see, wealth is a higher vibrational kind of accomplishment in the sense that you have to be at a certain level where basic needs are handled before you can start building the building blocks for wealth. Tell me if you get what I'm saying. But before you can even start talking about how to make $1 million, you got to get that first 1,000 that you need in order to pay the rent, right? Before you start talking about buying yachts and Lamborghinis, you have to make sure that you're not dead or in jail or in the hospital. Before you're able to dream about ownership of a major corporation, you've got to just make sure that that your kids are safe and provided for. Because if those basic things are not handled, then you can't go to the higher level. You can't go to the 14th floor if the first floor and the second floor and the third floor of the building are missing. Give me a yes if you understand. You can't do that. You can't, the elevator will not can't take you up there it can't take you to the 14th floor if the first, second, and third floor have never been built. So basically, one of the Maslow, thank you, Dr. Kareem, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There we go. Let me throw that on the screen. Yeah, Maslow's hierarchy. Thank you, Dr. Kareem. Look, she got her graduation cap on there. I love intelligent Black people. Smart Black women are the best. Y'all got to get one. I got one in my house, and she's amazing. And actually, I have several now because we got daughters too, and they're smart as hell. So this book, a lot of the book is written on areas that relate to things that on the surface don't seem to be connected to wealth at all. A lot of it is about the cultural phenomena that we tend to see in our own families. It's about bad habits that get passed from generation to generation. It's about things like how we handle relationships with others, how trauma affects our ability to show up for the people that we love. It talks about little basic things like let me ask y'all a question. How many of you have ever had somebody in your own family, borrow money from you and never pay it back? Give me a yes if you've ever had somebody in your family who borrowed money from you, and mind you, they came to you with the biggest sob story imaginable, right? They're like, "Oh my God, I'm about to be evicted. It's going to be terrible, or I'm gonna go back to jail." Right? Something that was that where they leaned on your relationship, where you said, "Man, I've got to come through for my cousin or whatever." And then your first reaction is, "Man, I really don't have the money." And then they make promise after promise after promise after promise after promise after promise after promise. Oh, I'm gonna get my check on Tuesday. As soon as I get my check Tuesday, I promise you, I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna come to your house. Where you gonna be at? What time? What time you get off work? I'm gonna come right after, and then I'm gonna take the bus. And after I take the number 2 bus, I'm gonna take the 4 bus, and then I'm gonna ride my bike over to your cousin's house. Right? They're really, really, like affirming to you that you're gonna get your money back on Tuesday at 4 o'clock, right? Has anybody ever gone through this? Or I assume I'm not the only one, right? And then you're like, okay, all right, okay. I don't feel comfortable loaning this money, but here you go, right? Because you know for sure that cousin is going to pay you back. You know what I'm talking about? That feeling, like you just know because y'all talked about it in a million different ways. Every promise was made, and then Tuesday comes and you can't find them. You don't know where they at, right? And then Wednesday comes and you haven't heard from them yet. And then Thursday comes, and then finally you start calling, you start texting, they're not responding to your text. And then you're calling, and they're not answering the call. And then finally you catch them somewhere in your corner at grandma's house or at the family reunion or whatever, and they're dodging you, or then in the worst case scenario, they might even have an attitude with you. Like why are you tripping? Like why you need to get up out my face, right? Like really, like literally everything has shifted. Well, y'all don't know this, but there's a whole body of research in finance in academic finance written about this. They call it a moral hazard problem. It's called moral hazard. Moral hazard is basically that when you loan money to somebody, you're giving them power. When you know, once you give them that power, it's hard to get it back. So here's where I'm getting at. In this book, I talk about these little things and help you understand that what you went through when your cousin promised you everything and leaned on your relationship to get you to feel safe in a situation where you clearly weren't safe, y'all do understand that this is traumatic, right? You do understand that this is what me and my wife refer to as financial trauma. My wife is a certified trauma specialist, in addition to being a full professor of social work and a licensed therapist who's been seeing clients for 30 years, 20 years. I'm sorry, 20 years. So you do understand. Give me a yes if you understand. This is trauma. This is trauma. And if I were to do a Google search, hit the thumbs up button while I do this. Please hit the thumbs up button. Um, Let me see here. If I were to look at the effects of trauma on relationships, let's see what comes up. Um, how does trauma affect your relationships? Many times, a survivor of trauma will try to hide their emotions and experience from their partner. They may not know how to communicate their needs and desires because they don't know what they are. At the very least, unhealed trauma can make people, and they use the words chronically unsafe, mistrustful, and anxious in relationships. And this manifests through the push and pull of desperately craving healthy connection, yet also fearful and ambivalent of connection and pulling away. So you pushing and pulling at the same time. You crazy your whole life. And so here's what I'm getting at. Pay attention. Follow me now. How many of you, when I told that story, how many of you kind of felt or have heard somebody say this? See, that's why I don't loan money to family. That's why I don't loan money to nobody. Has anybody heard somebody say that? Or have you said that yourself? Like almost to the point where loaning money to the people you trust the most, the people you're supposed to be there for the most, that loaning money to your own sibling is something that you just simply cannot do because even your own sibling will stab you in your stomach. I want you to sit on that for a moment. I want you to process how this ultimately undermines and completely destroys your ability to build wealth as a unit. Part of any team sport, which economics is really a team sport, a big component of any team sport, whether you're talking about a football team or a marriage, any team sport requires this a really important ingredient called trust. Trust. And so if I can't even trust you, how am I going to build a company with you? If I can't trust you, how am I going to build a family with you? If I can't trust you, how am I going to go to battle with you? I don't even know. You're behind me. I don't feel like you have my back. You might stab me in my back. So these little things that you wrote off and just say, oh, that's why I don't loan money to family. That financial trauma affects why black wealth does not grow, because you have five people, five siblings in the family. Nobody trusts anybody else. So everybody goes off individually and ends up working for some corporation when you could have been working together, building something together. You could have been taking that 40 hours a week, pouring it into the family business. Instead, you're taking 40 hours a week and pouring it into somebody else's family business. Instead of taking that 40 hours a week and pouring it into your own wealth, you're taking that 40 hours a week and building wealth for somebody else. You're being scattered by this trauma. So this culture has to be confronted. And before you start talking about the X's and O's of wealth, how a 401k is different from an IRA, or whether tech stocks are better to invest in than dividend paying stocks, or whether it's better to buy commercial real estate or to put money into multifamily. Before you start getting to all of those other like X's and O's, you got to be in a position where your mind is right. I think my friend Ash Cash has a book called Mind Right, Money Right. I love Ash. That's my buddy right there. And so what I would say to you is, this is what I write about in this book. This is what I write about. Do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. On my website, boycewatkins.com, I have lots of free tools and resources that you can take a look at. The $5 a day investing plan is one that we really promote in the Black Business School. Very basic idea that a 5-year-old could implement that will transform your family's wealth in less than a generation. Within 10 years, you would see a massive difference in your economic outcome. So feel free to, it's all totally free. Just go to boycewatkins.com. There's also a training called How to Make Money Without Working and all kinds of other stuff. Also, I want to invite everybody, make sure you're invited to go to the All Black National Convention, which happens October 20th in Atlanta. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. I'm also going to speak at Hip Hop Week in Milwaukee this week. And so if you want to be updated on stuff like that, you can also join my Telegram page. Just go to drboycetelegram.com. Okay, so let me just read some of the commandments to you really quick so you'll know what's in this book. We're talking about my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. I just decided to come in and kind of talk about it and why I wrote the book, what it means, what we're seeking to do. And if you want a copy, if you go to my website, it's right there. And my kids, or you can go to drboycebooks.com. I'll put that up there too. That's another way to get it. And my kids will mail it to you. Because we do run our stuff as a family business. We practice what we preach. So there are basic commandments that are simple to learn that will transform your family like crazy when it comes to wealth. This is based on a blend of economic theory, very high level economic theory. I've taken all the math classes, the statistics classes, all this stuff. This is not, the kind of stuff you learn if you're an accountant, or if you learn if you're a financial advisor. Professors are on a different level. We have to understand the underlying mathematics behind the statistics, behind the equations that value financial assets. So you see economics from a big picture perspective, and that's what makes it interesting to blend in culture into economics. You got to understand, if you don't have a culture built around healthy economics, then you're not going to have healthy economics, right? Unfortunately, many of us are born in the middle of almost like a war zone, in the middle of chaos. And it's hard to have prosperity in the middle of chaos. It's like a football team trying to win a Super Bowl, and nobody even knows what they're supposed to do. There's no game plan. Nobody knows what side of the line they're supposed to line up on. Nobody knows the difference between the quarterback and the running back, or the running back and the defensive back. And a team like that can't win. So in order for a football team to win a game, they have to have a plan. Everybody needs to know their position. Everybody has to show up and be accountable. And you have to have some sort of structured approach to things, right? So this is hopefully something you'll consider to have as part of your structure, like literally to the point where I would be bold enough to even say, if you had your kids memorize these 10 commandments, your family is going to be wealthier than most other families, white, black, Asian, Jewish, doesn't matter. Okay, so some of the commandments, I'll just read some of them to you. The details are in the book, but some of them are things like always be an asset to your family. This is about attitude. A lot of us have people in our family who show up with their hand out, who feel like the world owes them something, who don't feel accountable to anybody but themselves, and that's the wrong attitude. It's just like if you have a basketball team, you want to have players on the team who are not just ball hogs. You want to have players on the team who say, how can I help the team win? What can I do? Can I dive for a loose ball? Can I play better defense? Can I, if I got to sit on the bench, I'm willing to sit on the bench. What can I do to help the team win? So training your kids early and training yourself early, or whatever team you join, whatever economic family you're a part of, even if it's your investment club, showing up and saying, how can I help? It goes a real long way. It's like if we all get together and we all eat dinner together at a family reunion, and you're the one who shows up and you eat all the food, but you don't bring any food. Am I really being a good relative if I do that? Y'all give me a yes or no. What do you think? What's up, Dr. Vibe? How you doing? I see the Dr. Vibe show. Everybody go follow the Dr. Vibe show. It's very good. Commandment number 2 is buy black whenever possible. A lot of black economic prosperity is missed because black owned businesses don't get support. They have to fight battles on two fronts. First, they get boycotted by white people, and then they get boycotted by black people. It's utterly fascinating how such a large percentage of black economics goes into the hands of people who are not black. And it's even more stunning that we spend money with people who have proven that they don't even like black people that much to begin with, who have already said to you they're not going to do anything for your community. And also, black owned businesses tend to not just get the least support from black people, but they get the most scrutiny. They get the biggest attacks from black people. You will attack and destroy a black owned business that makes 100,000 a year faster than you will go after a white owned business that makes $10 billion a year. And that is slave culture. That comes out of slavery. The third commandment is black wealth training must be a rite of passage. Every black child should learn how to start a business by the age of 12. Every black family should do something similar to the $5 a day investing plan that we have. It's on my website, boycewatkins.com. It's totally for free. Any family that does that, very basic, literally put $5 a day, $35 a week, $5 a day won't even afford a Popeye's chicken value meal. $35 a week is $150 a month. The average new car note in America is $750 a month. So if you love your child as much as you love your car, then your children will never have to work for anybody. Your children will have independent wealth by the age of 25. Your children will be in a secure economic situation which will protect them from all of the forms of economic racism that exist in America. The thing you have to understand is that most of the racism in America that impacts us the most is economic racism. Well, why? Well, because the biggest weapon that your oppressor has to control you and to manage the oppression is their economic power. Their money is their power, and their power is used to manage and control other people, to exploit other people, to colonize, to enslave, all these things. And if you think slavery ended in 1865, you're out of your mind. If you think slavery ended on Juneteenth, you're really out of your mind. If you think that slavery ended just because they took you off the plantation and put you on a different plantation, then you probably need to learn a little more Black history. In fact, every Wednesday night, we read Dr. Claude Anderson books where Dr. Claude Anderson explains in books like Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, and the Black History Reader how slavery never, ever, 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 ever ended. Slavery is still here. It's just slavery by another name. Shout out to Ava DuVernay for doing her documentary on that on the 13th Amendment. Let's keep going. Number 4, create fertile economic soil for your family. One of the things about wealth is that wealth grows the same way a flower grows. Wealth grows the same way plants grow. And the other day, my wife showed me all of the vegetables she's growing in the garden. She grows. She had these big juicy tomatoes. She showed me a big gigantic cucumber. She showed me all these other fruits and vegetables that are hanging off the side because she planted these seeds and they all grew. And one of the things I asked her was, I said, "Aren't you worried about the rabbits getting in and eating the fruit?" And she had put up a barrier to keep the rabbits out. I said, "What about the insects and the weeds and things like that?" And the reason I asked these questions is because if the soil is bad, then the fruit won't grow. And in fact, if the fruit grows, it's going to be toxic fruit. So effectively, your economics grows when you have fertile economic soil. And so in the book, I explain in explicit detail what fertile economic soil looks like for your family. That means if you have a family where everybody is supportive, everybody has trust, they want to invest in each other, everybody shows up and makes sure that they hold up their end of the bargain. If I borrow money from you, I pay it back to you, because my daddy might have said to me that if you borrow money from a loved one and you don't pay them back, that is stealing. You're stealing from your loved ones. I remember my father saying to me a long time ago, the lowest thing a man can do is steal from his own family. So effectively, fertile economic soil means that everybody is working to become financially literate. Right. That means that if you tell me what you're doing, I'm not going to hate on you. I'm not going to speak negative about what you're doing. I'm not going to talk crazy. I'm not going to give you bad ideas. I'm going to give you good ideas. I'm going to give you a network. I'm going to give you experience, maybe give you some capital, maybe help you get some customers. I'm going to give you an advantage. Do you understand? Do you understand? People like Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates. I've heard people talk about how Bill Gates created Microsoft because he had an advantage. His mother was on the board of some big company and she was able to help him get connections. Well, those advantages make a difference in business. That's rigging the game in your favor. So the question is, how are you going to rig the game in the favor of your family, in the favor of your kids? You know, there's a lot you can do. You don't have to sit around and just be jealous of rich people or jealous of white people. You've got a lot of assets in your favor too. So creating fertile economic soil, there's a specific strategy to do that. And I explain that to you in this book. Okay. Let's see. Oh, someone says, how do you become a part of the book club? Well, you know what, sister, what I'm going to do is join the Telegram group, the Black Investors channel on Telegram. And what I'm going to do is after we get done, I'll put the URL on the screen. It's drboycetelegram.com. I'll put a link to the book club there. Also, if you text the word stock to 31996, I'll also send out a link to the book club meeting that way. We have to do it on Zoom just because Dr. Claude Anderson books, because he talks about race in an honest way. I think that might be the reason why we got blocked off of Facebook, because I think that they defined it as hate speech, because Dr. Anderson mentioned that the primary beneficiary of affirmative action is white females. And I think that got defined as hate speech because we identified a specific racial group. That's the world we live in. All right. So commandment number 5, invest in healthy relationships and maintain them. We talk about that because a lot of people don't understand how relationship building is so deeply connected to wealth. I was on the phone the other day with Mike Roberts, who has run billion-dollar companies. And one of the things that I noticed is that when I talk to Mike, he talks a lot about relationships. He talks a lot about networking. He doesn't talk about just the X's and O's that you might learn in business school. He talks about, oh, I know this person, I know that person, I've worked with this person, I work with that person. So one thing about wealthy people that you'll notice in wealthy families is that relationships tend to be very important. Your family is one great source of wealth. Those relationships matter. And so we talk about that in the book as well, in commandment number 5. And by the way, if you want, and someone's asking where you can get a copy of the book, just go to my website, boycewatkins.com. There should be a link there, or you can go to drboycebooks.com. All my books are at drboycebooks.com. All right, number 6, keep it in the family whenever possible. Targeting your wealth, targeting your spending, targeting your investment, very important. I think everyone should have a circle, an inner circle of people where you take your best opportunities to, an inner circle of people where you take your best ideas to, an inner circle of people where you take your economic opportunities to. And then if that circle can't benefit from those opportunities, like you're hiring and you can't find somebody in your circle, then you go to that next outer circle, maybe to the Black community at large. And if there's nobody there, then maybe you go to the final circle where you just find the best person you can get. But ultimately, targeting where you spend your money or where you bring your resources matters. If I want my family to have resources, think about resources and wealth and opportunity like food. Think of it like food. So if we're all getting together and we're going to have a meal, and I'm taking every time I grow any food or I pick up any food, I take it to the white community, right? That's what you're doing every day when you get up and you go to work and you work for a company outside your community. You're taking your economic food somewhere else. Right. And then you come home and you wonder why your own family's impoverished. If I'm taking all the food and giving it to someone down the street, then why would I be surprised when my own family doesn't have any food? Well, part of this is because I need to train myself to turn in the opposite direction. I'm not going to give the best that I've got to my boss and then give whatever's left to my wife. I'm going to give my best to my wife and then give whatever's left to my boss. I'm going to give the best that I got to my kids and then give whatever's left to somebody else. I'm going to give my best to my parents. I'm going to give my best to my siblings. I'm going to give my best to the people in my clique, in my circle. So keeping it in the family, being very economically conscious in that way is an extremely important part of wealth. If you look at other communities, look at the Jewish community, they're very specific about where you should spend, where you should invest, where you should buy. If you build a Chinese restaurant and put it in the middle of Chinatown, you can have the best food at the lowest prices, but you still won't have any customers because they're going to be very specific about who they give their money to. Number 7, capital must be preserved, protected, and efficiently used. In that chapter, I talk about what capital is and understanding what capital means and protecting the ball. Like in football, the first job of the quarterback is to protect the ball. So I talk about what it means to protect the ball. Capital preservation is critically important. Why? Well, most wealthy families lose all their wealth within one generation. And almost all wealthy families lose all their wealth within 2 generations. Well, a lot of that's because nobody talks about protecting the capital you make. Or if you look at BET, and remember, giving away the ball is embedded in Black culture. They tell us that part of being Black means giving everything away. Even the rap songs, the women, some of the female rappers are rapping about giving everything away for free, if you know what I'm talking about, giving that body away. If he buys you a Coach bag, you give him whatever he wants, right? If you talk about the men and the money in hip hop, the men are doing this. They're spending all that money. They're giving it all away. And they don't understand capital preservation as a core value. So what effectively happens when you talk about an NBA player, they've had a BET show called Blew the Bag. Anybody remember Blew the Bag? Well, Blew the Bag was all about mostly Black men who had lots of money who gave it all away. And so they made it into a joke, like it was funny, ha ha ha. But the problem is that when you do that, you're giving away the wealth that could have protected your children. Now your daughter is out here, maybe sleeping with some guy just so she can pay the bills. Now your son's out here taking penitentiary chances because daddy did not show up in the way he was supposed to show up. In fact, there was one guy, and I'll never forget him because he had a few babies, mamas, and about 7 kids, and he won the lottery. He won about $250,000. And he basically said that what he did with the money, they said, "What did you do with the money?" He said, I went to Vegas and I rented out the entire floor of hotel rooms. I was popping bottles. I had my women and strippers and stuff coming up to the room, and he basically blew all the money. And if you look at that, you would say, well, where would he get this idea of popping bottles and strippers and all this other stuff? Well, he's emulating what he saw in media. He's emulating what he thinks is the culture. Right. So, again, this is why this book is all about culture, because I think you have to look at the parts of the culture and say, which parts of this culture are built around preserving what I have and getting more of what I have, as opposed to the parts of the culture that involve giving away what I have. So we have to confront that culture. I'll be really quick. I'm going to read the last 3 really quick. Number 8, always plant seeds for the future. That's delayed gratification versus instant gratification. Cultures that believe in delayed gratification tend to have the most wealth, period. People who will sacrifice today so they can have more tomorrow, they tend to be healthier, they tend to be wealthier, they tend to have better relationships. Number 9, always leave a worthy inheritance. That means that the uncle, the daddy, or whoever that dies and has a GoFundMe account that's supposed to pay for the funeral, that's unacceptable. We cannot do that. Inheritance is not hard to do. Basic life insurance, little things like that, preserving what you have for your kids and grandkids is not just an opportunity, it's a responsibility. Because if you don't do that, then your children end up being slaves for the capitalists. See, if you don't understand capitalism, then you're going to sell your children into slavery, into capitalism. Capitalism is built around slavery. You don't believe me? Let me ask you this question. If I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and I know that I can't eat unless I go to work. If I know I won't have a place to live if I don't show up and do what my boss tells me to do. Am I free or am I a slave? I can't get up and decide I want to go to the movies. I mean, I technically could, but I really can't. Why? Well, because I went to a big white university that I owe $150,000 to, so I got to pay the student loans. I got a landlord that's expecting $2,222 a month. I have car note that I have to pay for, so I can, because I got me an expensive car, so I can look fly. So if I don't show up to work, I mean, again, I technically have the freedom to do whatever I want, but because the consequences are so great, I'm going to do exactly what the capitalist tells me to do. So that which used to be the massa has now been replaced by the high-ranking capitalist that controls your life. Money is used in this society extensively as both a tool and as a weapon and as a shield. It is used for all those things. Money can be used to protect you. Money can be used to build things. Money can also be used to attack other people. So if you feel that pressure on your neck, where you feel like the man is managing you and running you and controlling you and telling you what to do and stressing you out every day and not giving you options and not allowing you to live your best life, well, that's capitalism 101 in full effect. So the best thing that I would share with you is to ask yourself this question: do I want my children to feel the same way I feel right now? Do I love my kids enough to make sure that they don't go through what I'm going through? Or do you care so little about them that you don't want to make a plan? Or do you care so little about them that you won't make a sacrifice? Do you care so little that you're not willing to do anything now to prepare for the future? If you don't care about your kids, then I can't help you. There's nothing I can say that's going to change that. That's a core value you're going to have to address. But for those of you that do care, what I'm here to share with you, and this is what I put in this book, there are solutions out there. There are solutions, but you got to plan ahead. The number one core value that I teach my children almost every single day, anytime I can get them to listen, is that preparation is the key to success. Preparation is the key to success. In a capitalist society, people who make long-term plans are the winners. China is going to defeat the United States in the next 100 years for one basic reason. There's other reasons too, but one basic reason is they think long-term. We make 4-year plans. They make 150-year plans. The other reason they're going to defeat us is because they think big and broad. They work as a group. We do not. We work as individuals. So when you think big and you think long, your power will be great. When you think big and you think long, your power will be extraordinary. You have a better chance to win. When you think individually and you're thinking short term, then you cannot win. You cannot win, because what is effectively occurring in that transaction is you're trying to use individualism to defeat an entire system. You're trying to use one super soldier to defeat an entire army. The Chinese are coming. The Chinese are an army. Their whole society. I taught finance in China in 2006. And when I tell you that the army is coming, I'm not playing with you. I'm not joking with you. They operate as a collective in a way that I have never seen in my life. I went to the basketball court and they wouldn't even play with you if they didn't know who you were. When I back at home, you just show up to the court. You just say, I got next. They let you in. No, if they don't know you, they're like, we don't know you. We're not playing with you. We'll play a 4-on-5 before we invite you in. They work as a group. So ultimately, what I would encourage you to do is learn from that culture. Learn from every culture that is accomplishing something that you would like to accomplish, and really pay attention to failing cultures and the things you want to get away from. The 10th commandment is that ownership is the key to power. You cannot measure a person's economic status by how much money they make. You cannot measure a person's economic status by how much money they blow when they go to the club. You cannot measure a person's economic status by whether or not they're wearing nice alligator shoes. You cannot measure a person's economic status by how nice their apartment is. You cannot measure a person's economic status by how much they're flexing on Instagram. None of those things matter. What matters is, what do you own? What do you control? Those things are connected to your net worth. Very few of the economic lessons that we learn as children are built around the premise of ownership. Don't believe me? Let me explain why. Think about when you were a kid, and think about the fact that when you grew up, many of us, you were told to get a job. You weren't told to own a company. You were told to get a job. In fact, owning the company was seen as unrealistic. You knew somebody owned it, but it wasn't going to be you. You were also told to go and rent an apartment. That's the first thing you do when you're young. You say, okay, let me get a job and get an apartment. You weren't talked. A lot of us don't talk much about owning the actual building or charging rent to other people. And then also the third thing you were taught that's economically devastating is to spend. Because without the American consumer, capitalists can't get rich. Capitalists need other people to do the work. They need other people to pay the rent. They need other people to buy the products. And so effectively, Black people, we are the perfect guinea pig in this space, because we're the ones that have the least power. We're the ones who are disliked the most. We're the ones who receive the least respect. So whatever capitalism is crapping onto American society, they crap it onto the black community first because they know that there's not going to be any form of accountability. So what I would encourage you to do is to understand that in general, I think every intelligent black person in this room or in this space right now should think of their home as their own government. Your own government, where you form your own policies, you form your own customs, you create your own culture. You have to do that. In my house, we have a government. We have a king and a queen. And in this government, there are some basic economic rules that apply that also link to culture, like the topics that are in this book. Some of the rules that apply in our household are if you are siblings, your goal should be at some point to work together to help each other succeed economically and otherwise. It starts with a foundation of love. You never turn your back on somebody that's in your family. You stick together, you show up for each other, you fight for each other because the world is tough. Other core values are when you get older, if you want to go work for somebody, you can. But truth be told, you really don't have to. There are a million different ways to make money besides getting a job. I'm not saying you can't get a job. I'm not saying I'm going to make fun of you. I'm just saying that there are plenty of people, millions of people out here who make a lot more money without going to work every day. That's what I want for you. Also, another core value is that when it comes to wealth, you need to own something. Everybody should own something. Not everybody needs to run a business, but everybody should own a piece of a business. Everybody should own shares of stock. Everybody should have ownership in some kind of real estate at some point because you need to be connected to the people that are winning in this society. And the reason this is never going to be something that everybody does, this is never going to be something that's common throughout the entire black community, because there are so many different people that are going to lose money by not making you into their slave. There are so many people who stand to lose from black people waking up that mainstream media, mainstream educational systems, mainstream society is never going to endorse the ideas that I'm laying out here right now. They will look at me as more dangerous than any thug, any criminal, any gangster, any killer, any prison inmate that they have out here today. There's nobody more dangerous than black people who are telling other black people how to break away from the system and be independent, because at that point you no longer become an asset. At that point, they have no benefit from your existence. So the goal is to exterminate you, or make sure you're never born, or make sure that you don't get a chance to share your ideas with other people. So those of you that are listening, a lot of what I say to you is based on science. And again, the book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can go to boycewatkins.com and get a copy if you want to. And also, if you don't want to buy the book, that's fine too. There's plenty of free stuff there. All I want you to really understand is that a lack of knowledge or a lack of access to information is no longer our excuse. And also, the other thing too that I think I can offer you from a unique perspective is I've been meditating on this issue for decades. For decades, I've been sitting here trying to figure out what is wrong with our families. Why did this happen in my family? Why was my daddy not there when I was born? Why did he go to prison for drugs? Why was my mentor, my uncle, my number one mentor, what happened with his life? Why is it that there's so much chaos? Why are people fighting? And then when I saw a couple of relatives kind of dip into the cut and do something a little different, that's what made me say, oh, okay, I get it now. You got away from the drama. That's why you're not dealing with drama anymore. You know, my father, I never understood why my father strategically would move us away from the relatives so that so we weren't in the middle of everything. And then when I got older and I saw how many boys I grew up with, they ended up in jail or on drugs, it started to make sense. And so I figured it out. I said, okay, I get it now. I think what I'm picking up here is that personal accountability is really important. I notice that's not taught much in society, but I think it's very important. Also, disconnecting, doing something different. That's really important. And as a result of that, I saw my parents end up in a situation that made other people very jealous. I saw them go from living in a housing project when I was a baby to being retired, financially secure, and in a very good economic position with minimal drama, while there's like a tornado of chaos happening everywhere else. They would say, we don't want no parts of that. We're going to be over here. So that's what I would say to you. That's my advice. That's my 2 cents. That's what I want to share. So thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. Again, my website's boycewatkins.com. There's a lot of free stuff there if you want to pick it up. If you want to get profit alerts sent to you via text, and the profit alert today, for those of you that came in late, is the stock is a Cushnet Holdings. The ticker symbol is Golf, GOLF. That's the stock I'm going to buy today. Also, if you'd like to join our my Telegram group for Black investors, feel free to go to drboycetelegram.com. That's a good way to keep up with information. And you can also text the word stock to 31996 to get the profit alerts. So if you could, please hit that thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. God bless you all. Thank you so much for hearing me out about this. Someone asked me if I could make a 10-minute video about my book, and I couldn't. I just can't do it. So that's why we took 45 minutes, because I'm very passionate about this. I would bet my life on all of this, because I know the solutions are there for us. But the hardest part is gonna be changing our habits. But if you're up for that challenge, I can guarantee you that this is gonna make a big difference in your life. So anyway, God bless you. I wish you the best. I'll see you guys soon. Have a good day. Peace.